You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. A lot of people here, I think, had very high expectations for Max Johnson, and through 2 games, it just hasn't looked as good as it did for the final 2 games. How difficult of a transition is that for Max Johnson when you are absolutely the guy, and he's had some of these struggles early on?
I think that it's extremely difficult. This is big boy football. Now, listen, I'm going to trust, first of all, not only what I see, but I'm going to trust a little bit of DNA here. His daddy is obviously one of my very dear friends, and we talk pretty often. I can tell you this, when Brad Johnson came to Minnesota as an 11th round, I believe, or 9th round pick from Florida State, big arm, knew how to throw a check down, was just feeling his way through, bright guy, loved sports, gym rat, give it time. And Brad turned into a hell of a football player. We've come to the point, Matt, not just only here, everywhere we go, if you've got a name or you're highly recruited or you're playing at a place like LSU or Bama or Southern Cal or Florida State, we expect not only quantum leaps from game to game, but we expect special. Now, he's no Joe Burrow right now, but you want me to take you back to Joe Burrow's first year in LSU? I'm going to take you back to Joe Burrow at Ohio State, got beat out by a guy who can barely stay in the league right now, in Dwayne Haskins. And look what it's starting to get in the mix with coaching. Joe, at the end of that year, had that big bowl game, and then they start to transform into a player. I'm not saying Max Johnson's going to be Joe Burrow. I don't know if Max Johnson's going to be Jeff Wickersham, who was a good player, Tommy Hodson. I can tell you this, though. I trust the DNA, the football IQ, and I think we got to slow it down. Okay, it was average against UCLA. It has not exploded against McNeese, but you're not going to play guys and throw it 50 times against the team you're supposed to beat. Let's slow down and let it happen. It's a difficult transition because I've done both, where I was the starter all the time at SC, and you're getting every rep. Then you're the backup coming off the bench in the NFL, and then you start in the NFL. It takes a minute to settle in and to understand what one coach, the right hand's feeding the left, and what this guy's saying. So, listen, if we're 9 games in and Max Johnson's taking steps back, then we'll take a look at it. But we are at a time when nobody wants to allow anything to happen. Now, he goes down there in the biggest games of his life, in the big pressure games, and looks like he doesn't belong because mentally he's not into it. He's scared, all that. Then we can start to say maybe this isn't for him. I'm not anywhere near that yet, nowhere near it. So I just ask that people slow their roll. One good game in the pros, oh, man, he's going to the Hall of Fame. In college football, Trevor Lawrence, oh, he turns it over too much. What's going to happen with him? Matt Jones, what am I saying? Mac Jones is now, oh, man, he's the next Tom Brady. We got to slow down. He's had a couple starts last year and a couple starts this year. Let's let Max Johnson get into the mix, and let's judge him later in the season, not after 2 starts where he's not, a college Hall of Famer just yet. I think we got to temper that a bit with all of our expectations, good and bad.
Sean, the undeniable truth about LSU through 2 games also is that the offensive line they've been objectively bad.
Yes.
The quarterbacks have been under constant pressure, and there's no running game. So if you're Jake Peetz, if you're LSU offensive staff, how do you generate a game plan when your offensive line can't protect the quarterback and can't open holes for the running game?
That's where the genius comes in. That's where the expertise. Well, I'll take you to Clemson. Let's just go Clemson, Georgia in the opener.
Okay.
Yeah, Uangalele was last year, comes in and plays Notre Dame, throws for close to 450 or whatever, right, when Trevor Lawrence misses, right? Oh, man, we got the next great one. Well, he looks like he's going to be great. All of a sudden, Georgia, they can't block a soul. Clemson, Georgia's defensive line looks as if they actually could beat the Atlanta Falcons offense after what I saw last week. And now all of a sudden, Clemson, what's going wrong? They got a boring offense. Is DJ going to be? And then they come back against a lesser opponent. And that offensive line, look what happens. Look what happens when great players, I'm going to tell you, when you have to and Max has got good feet, but when you get to a point where you can't settle in and you're always wondering, and the trust factor's big, when you know you can set your feet and go, and then you design plays to get on the edge, you got a guy who can escape. That's great. But the LSU I know protects the passer. and also has run the football. We know the athletes they've had in the past.
Yeah.
And we got to slow down, too. Max Johnson's not Joe Burrow yet, but Joe Burrow wasn't Joe Burrow yet either. So all of it comes together, and they say, well, he's no Pat Mahomes. Well, really, who is? Well, he's not. He's not where this freshman is, or why isn't he who C.J. Stroud is right now, or why isn't he Bryce Young? Well, because they're a better football team right now, and they've had a little bit more, and there's experience, and he's trying to get in the mix. He was in a battle last year and a battle in this camp. So, yes, it's important. So that it's incumbent on the coordinator. And I didn't see this against a team who's been a national championship team, Clemson, against Georgia. I'm sitting here saying, why are we dropping back 3 and a hitch or 5 and a hitch, holding the ball and trying to push it down the field? To me, it's pretty logical. If I can't block you and I'm not running the ball very well, then I better get the quick game and I better start executing. And you better get off press coverage and you better be able to get off the ball. So it all works in sync. You got to be able to set your feet. Then every now and then you run into a quarterback who just makes everybody, play 10 times better, and we got to give it a chance to happen. But if I'm calling plays and I'm not protecting my quarterback and my run game's not dominating physically, guess what I got to do? Then as a coach, it's incumbent upon me to understand how to adjust. And if some guys aren't doing it, then I need to replace them, whether it's a right tackle, a center, a slot receiver, a defensive end. But as the pass protection goes and getting in sync, they're going to get better. And the coach is feeling his way out too. But for me, when all else fails, when they're pressuring you, the way that I counterpoint that is stuff to keep them off balance. Sometimes you may have to max protect, keep backs in, and your receivers are going to have to win in one-on-one battles or beat zone, and you got a 2 or 3 man route. So you have to learn to get the ball out quick and anticipate. And a lot of times coaches, and I'm not saying it's LSU, it's everywhere, they get stubborn and they got to learn to adjust on the fly. One of the toughest things to do is be a great play caller when things aren't going well. But you just have to, and if not, then like a player, then you better adjust, or as we all know, saw what happened on defense last year, you get replaced. So they got their work cut out for them, but you have to, it's a point counterpoint, your chest move versus mine. If I'm not protecting Matty, I got to get the ball out quicker, and I can't be pushing the ball down at 15, 20-yard routes. The quicker I get it out, then what do? They start to back off. And you got to hit opportunities when they're there, but you also got to hit singles when they're not there.
Yeah. Drop passes certainly were an issue this week. Sean, I'm not going to
pretend. That's exactly right.
I'm not going to pretend like you sat there and watched every play of LSU and McNeese in a blowout, but we did get to see Garrett Nussmeier. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. We did get to see Garrett Nussmeier, the freshman, and it wasn't impressive on the stat sheet, but there's an undeniable sort of energy that he brought. So I think one of the things that's interesting, and maybe just I can lean into here for the psychology of this, but you have two quarterbacks, neither who has proven an exceptional amount. One is probably a safer pick in Max Johnson. One maybe has a higher ceiling, but also more of a probability of making mistakes in Garrett Nussmeier. So what do you do while you kind of wait on Miles Brennan to get back into the fray?
Who do you trust in the big? If I'm asking this question, my staff when I'm sitting in there, and like I said, it's amazing, Matty, how quickly we're ready. If Jameis Winston, and we'll get to the NFL next segment, but if he'd have had a poor game this week and went back to old Jameis, turn it over, you know what everybody would have been saying? We got to either play the guy that's there now, Taysom, we got to go find a quarterback. Is Deshaun Watson after one game? I'm just telling you, that's how it goes. And like I said, having lived it, I know because I've been on both ends of the backup. You come in, of course, the backup's more energy and maybe a higher ceiling. You're right. But what happens is, as a backup, your thought process is, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to come in here, cut it loose. People expect it. When you settle in as the starter and you're trying to find your way as Max Johnson, let's let it evolve, and maybe you mix him in with a series or two to find out when I really find out about a quarterback is when it's ugly. Not when it's ugly, and not just once, but over an extended amount of time. You start to see trends of a way a guy can do something. And you're exactly right. Sometimes we just see a guy and say, the energy's different. But weren't we saying this at a couple times last year about LSU when Max Johnson came in? It's kind of a different energy, right? Mm-hmm. Look at how he moves. And, man, he's got Brad Johnson DNA and the rest. So we say it, and now all of a sudden he's a starter in a couple subpar performances or average performances in the last 2 games, and we're like, okay, man, who's the next guy? Slow down, man. It's not everybody is winning the Heisman Trophy. Not everybody's Spencer Rattler. And I'll take you back to Rattler. His first 2 games, while stats were okay, they were 1 and 2 in his first 2 starts. Everybody goes, well, I thought Rattler was Kyler Murray. What's wrong here? He's pretty good now, and I'm not comparing the two, but it's easy to be the backup and have energy. And Nuss's kid has got good football IQ, too. He knows how to play. So we're dealing with some good football players, but we've got expectations at LSU are so high, but we put so much expectation on them, it's hard for them to be able to deliver because all that they do is if you make a mistake, you're looking over to the sideline wondering, when's the next guy coming in? Let's let them evolve into a position, and if it doesn't work, then and only then do you go find the next guy. But if somebody brings energy, give him a package or two and see how it works.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.